How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We have a reaction today. We're gonna be checking out how the Netherlands failed at housing by the original channel OBF. So check out them. I will have a link to the original video down below. This is a priority request from Kalen. He's gave me some requests before, always good ones, always good ones. And so this one looks like it's gonna be going too. I've done some reactions to the OBF channel before, and I do enjoy their videos. Put together really well and everything, and the topics are always good, right? So he said, I think the following video would be worthwhile to react to as it highlights some of the things that the Netherlands doesn't do well, and why this is the case, highlighting the housing crisis going on in the Netherlands. So I have heard a few different things about a housing crisis and stuff like that. The Netherlands is obviously the most densely populated country in Europe, they say. So, you know, and they just have a lot of good stuff that appeals to a lot of people. So, you know, you got a lot of people that's coming in, you know, living in the country from other places, moving there from abroad and whatnot. So it does tend to cause an issue, I heard. So we're going to find out exactly. We're going to take a deep dive into this and find out how the Netherlands failed at housing. So, let's check it out. And again, shout out to Kalen. And if you guys want to make a priority suggestion or just support the channel in general, there is links down below for that. So without further ado, we're going to check this out, see what this is all about.
Of major cities including Amsterdam, Rotterdam, The Hague and Utrecht, all connected by suburbs and small towns. Altogether, the Randstad houses nearly half of the Netherlands population. Given the country's population density, the Dutch had to avoid the American-style urban sprawl and instead design compact cities. This approach has led to the Netherlands' remarkable public transport and biking infrastructure, and means even suburbs are connected to the biking network. Another result of this focus on avoiding the all-encompassing sprawl is the Green Heart, a protected green area which is surrounded by the Randstad cities. The Green Heart is a natural ecosystem full of pads, bogs, meadows and farms.
I've not heard of the Green Heart, I don't think. And if I did, I forgot about it, and I apologize for that. You know, I've watched a lot of videos. I can't remember all of it, right? The Green Heart, huh? So it's just within, so you got all the cities around it. So like in between that part, they're like, you know, nature preserve kind of thing, right? That's kind of cool.
Look at the big picture. The Dutch are great at designing efficient cities which are really pleasant places to live. But when you compare the country's small size, currently around 33,000 square kilometers of land, with its population of 17.4 million people, it starts to seem a bit crowded. And while the Randstad and Green Heart show how the Netherlands is ridiculously well designed, no country is perfect. Despite the country's reputation as an urban planning utopia, some serious problems are cropping up, and the ordinary people affected by them are not happy. In the fall of 2021, they took to the streets to protest in major cities like Amsterdam and Rotterdam. The truth is that the country is currently experiencing a major housing crisis. Just a few months before, the country recorded a shortage of 279,000 homes, which is expected to grow to 316,000 by 2024. While the country plans to build 1 million housing units over the next decade, or around 100,000 per year, that's not enough to address the demand. In the meantime, rents continue to increase in cities like Rotterdam, going up 9.7% just last year. The demand for housing has caused a current shortage of 27,000 student housing units, leaving university students with fewer options.
Well, that's the thing, you know, bigger cities are always, I mean, that's, you know, that's a problem around here too. Rents are going up, the prices of groceries are going up, everything's going up in price a lot lately. But I mean, of course, the bigger the city, the more, you know, people's going to be there, the more competition. You know, you got supply and demand, right? When the demand goes up, but the supply stays the same, then the price goes up, you know.
Dutch students, this could mean living with their parents for longer, as 47% are already doing. But that's not an option for international students, who make up 2 out of 5 first-year students and 15% of the total student body. In one city, this has led to tents being set up to house homeless students. Last summer, the University of Amsterdam told incoming foreign students to reconsider coming if they couldn't find housing before the school year started. The student housing situation has gotten so bad that the Dutch parliament has even asked the country's university universities to stop taking foreign students. In response to this issue, the government recently announced an action plan to build 60,000 affordable student residences by 2030. While that's more than double the current shortage, we'll have to see if that keeps up with future demand. In any case, student housing is only part of the housing shortage. With home prices increasing 75.8% from 2015 to 2021, it's increasingly hard for young people to enter the housing market. That means fewer people are likely to have children going forward since they can't afford to rent an apartment, let alone buy a house with multiple bedrooms.
Fewer children. Wouldn't that kind of help with the densely populated part though too, going forward? I mean, right? I don't know, maybe I'm looking at it wrong.
Government has tried to alleviate this problem by cutting taxes for first-time home buyers under 35. They're also reducing them for those over 35 who live on their property. As inflation pushes up interest rates, it may sound like good news that housing prices are finally starting to fall, but demand for housing is still too strong for this to really impact the housing crisis. With this unprecedented situation, could the country look to its past to solve this problem? Historically, the Netherlands has had a pretty genius way of creating new land out of basically nothing. See, for centuries, the Dutch...
Okay, so of course, they've reclaimed land from the sea. You know, they make like dikes and block off the land, or the water, right? Suck out the water from the middle, dry it up, call it a polder, put some windmills there to keep the water flowing through it and everything, keeping it drained. So, does that mean that they're going to make new land right off the coast? Now, also, I'm curious, international water starts 12 miles out, right? Are they limited to building within that 12 miles? And once they do, does that 12-mile stretch extend? Can they just keep on keeping on, right? Until there's just a 12-mile gap in between them and England? That's an interesting thought.
Reclaimed land from the sea and marshlands to increase their territory. To give an example, Flevoland, a province of the Netherlands since 1986, was completely below water before 1924.
I'm going to go back just a little bit because there's a chart right here that shows the dates.
For centuries, the Dutch reclaimed land from the sea and...
Yeah, so land existing before 1300. Land reclaimed in the 13 and 1400s, land reclaimed in the 17 and 1800s, the 1900s. Okay.
Marshlands to increase their territory. To give an example, Flevoland, a province of the Netherlands since 1986, was completely below water before 1924. It's pretty incredible that they were able to bring 2,400 square kilometers of land from the seabed. I mean, you can even see it from space. There were also plans to fill in most of the neighboring 700 square kilometers Markermeer Lake, but the idea was abandoned due to political infighting. While I may have made the Netherlands seem like an overcrowded urban hellscape, preserving nature has long been important to Dutch planners. A significant part of Flevoland was left undeveloped and became part of the 29,000 square kilometer New Land National Park, the world's largest man-made natural reserve. And while continuing to reclaim land may seem like an easy option to address the housing crisis, nature is increasingly taking priority, which means the competing priorities of agriculture and preserving nature are inevitably butting heads. What's crazy is how much of a 180 this is compared to the historical approach. While plants and animals were always an important part of land reclamation, the fertile land was used for farming crops and raising animals. While the Markermeer Lake reclamation plan was scrapped long ago, several islands are now being built there as part of the New Land Park, eventually covering 10,000 hectares of land. But instead of using this land for badly needed housing, it's addressing another need: biodiversity, which has diminished over the centuries due to expanding urbanization. Only one island is accessible.
I'm sorry, I gotta check that out. That looked really cool. Whoops, where's it at? I'm trying to go back here.
Instead of using this land for badly needed housing, it's addressing another need: biodiversity, which has diminished over the...
That looks really cool. All the water's running straight into this like little river area, it looks like, from the canals. That's really cool from overhead. And everything's built alongside of them. You can see it spanning out in almost like a half circle shape. That's nuts.
Countries due to expanding urbanization. Only one island is accessible to the public, allowing nature to take over the rest, sprouting new life and attracting birds and other wildlife to its shores. Thanks in part to land reclamation, about a third of the country's land is now below sea level, which makes it particularly vulnerable to flooding. While the Dutch long ago mastered the art of holding back the ocean, climate change is causing new problems like rising sea levels and extreme weather. For many of the country's current 17,691 kilometers for dikes, that means upgrades like racing and reinforcement are essential to keeping out higher water. But since the sea is projected to rise 1 to 2 meters over the next century, the cost to upgrade the entire country's coastline and rivers could be massive. One estimate ranges from 9 billion euros for a mere 20.
You know, it said, I'll go back just a second since I paused it, but over a third of the land is reclaimed from the sea, right? So a third of it would be gone if they didn't reclaim it, right? It just wouldn't be there. I'm pretty sure what I've heard was like about half or close to half of like whatever the rest of, you know, what's there is less than a meter or two above sea level. So if the sea level is supposed to be rising a meter or two in the next decade, that's kind of scary. That's pretty scary. That could like that could take out half the Netherlands. Huh. That's nuts.
For the next century, the cost to upgrade the entire country's coastline and rivers could be massive. One estimate ranges from 9 billion euros for a mere 24 centimeter rise in sea level to as much as 46 billion for a 1.5 meter rise. And that excludes the cost of upgrading the existing flood protection system, but even if they manage to keep the sea out, rivers could still overflow and cause massive floods like the recent ones in the Netherlands, Belgium and Germany. Even worse, the dikes next to rivers are made of sponge-like soil called peat, which can dry out with extreme heat, causing it to break apart. This exact thing happened in 2003 in the village of Wilnis, rudely awakening 1,500 villagers at 2 in the morning to evacuate the flood waters. As climate change causes more extreme weather like heat waves and droughts, the risk of more dikes breaking will only increase. So beyond housing, the country is facing serious challenges like rising sea levels and flooding, while also preparing for the possibility of extreme heat causing droughts that dry up the land. With less and less space available and reclaiming land more complicated than in the past, the country is having to reconsider how it uses its land. And when you take a closer look, the current situation is pretty shocking. Farmland takes up a massive 65% of the country's land, followed next by forests and natural areas, and only then built up areas like cities. That means even though agriculture is far from the most important industry economically, it's by far the largest in terms of land use. This dedication to farming despite the lack of land has made the country the world's second largest food exporter by value in the world. And the huge portion of the country's land dedicated to agriculture is used in a few different ways: grassland for animals, arable farmland, and horticultural land for growing plants. Thanks to greenhouses in particular, the country became the world's #1 tomato exporter, ahead of countries like Spain with much warmer climates, which I find pretty funny. But anyway, the future might be rocky for Dutch farmers. With farms in close proximity to natural habitats, concerns about farming's impact on the environment have led the Dutch government to take action. They recently required farmers to reduce pollutants like ammonia, nitrogen oxide, and nitrous oxide. As ammonia is a natural byproduct of animal waste, meeting these targets means reducing livestock by 30%. In response, the farmers protested throughout the summer of 2022. Still, while the ongoing dispute will definitely cause some trouble for Dutch farmers in the near future, the Dutch farming industry has continued to innovate over the past 10 years, massively reducing
Is this all greenhouses? Wow. That is crazy.
pesticides and antibiotics use. Considering the growth of sustainable farming practices in the Netherlands, it seems there's still a future for Dutch agriculture. Up-and-coming innovations like growing plants and even raising animals in vertical farms could reduce farming's environmental impact while freeing up more land for housing. But it's still too early to see how this will play out. While Simon Cooper, a Dutch journalist at the Financial Times, claims that the Netherlands, quote, has run out of space, the country is still growing for now. In 2020,
he said, what does the country look like that has run out of space for pigs, planes, and people? That's crazy.
The Dutch population grew on average by 316 people each day. But not all regions of the country are experiencing the same challenges. In more remote parts of the country, like Zeeland, Flanders, southern Limburg, and parts of Groningen, the population is declining. As people move away for better opportunities, those who stay are having less children, causing a vicious cycle which drives employers away from the area and further reduces the quality of services for residents.
Yeah, and the Randstad is where they're moving to, like where the arrows, where it was pointing to, where the, you know, like the 4 most populous city centers there are, right? I think that's like where over half the people in the Netherlands live is actually within the Randstad area.
The positive effect of this, however, is that housing prices drop and rental availability increases. While I'm sure it's easier said than done, perhaps remote work can help more people to stay in these areas or allow those in search of more space to move there. Still, for the time being, the places with the most appeal are the ones most affected by the housing shortage. And that's where I think we need some new ideas. A startup called Microwoning, meaning micro house, is finding unused private land to build 20 to 40 square meter tiny houses that it rents out at affordable rates.
There we go, that's a good idea. A little tiny house. Join the tiny house movement, right?
It's already applied to 40 different local governments to build 500 tiny homes across the country. While the project is still in its infancy, the idea has been tried elsewhere with much success. Tens of thousands of ADUs have already been built in California. And another solution seen in Denmark is forcing students to study in other parts of the country by moving the educations to the provincial towns of the country, which, to be honest, hasn't been that great of a solution as it has brought many angry students with it.
Well, it's a good idea to spread out, right, the population, but at the same time, the towns might not like it because then you got all these crazy college kids moving into their quiet neighborhoods, messing up their vibe. You know what I mean? So I could see, you know, there's good and bad with everything though, right?
So the solution isn't immediately evident, but I'm sure the Netherlands will figure it out, like they did with the ocean. But that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
What did that say at the end of that?
Evident,
there we
but
go.
I'm sure the Netherlands will figure it out.
What are you thinking? Bringing the Dutch. Okay, I couldn't see what that said because this thumbnail thing was over the screen. Yeah, that was really interesting, guys. What do you think? What are your thoughts on that? Like, if over half the country is less than a meter over the sea level, then do you think something's gonna happen? You know what I mean? Within 10 years, if the sea level is gonna rise, what are they doing, right? What are they doing? But anyways, you guys have a super fun, awesome day. Shout out to you, Kaylin, for the suggestion, and I will see you guys in the next one. All right, take care.